Let's talk about the greatest common factor. This is going to kind of lead us into our factoring chapter. But before we begin, let's kind of look back at what we already know. Now, we have seen things like this before, where we said, if you're supposed to simplify 2 times x plus y. And hopefully, by this time, as the minute that you look at this, you should recognize this as a distribution problem. So we would have to multiply the 2 times the x to be 2x, and then the 2 times the y to be a positive 2y. Now, we've been doing that for this entire semester. But let's look at it as, what if we were presented with the 2x plus 2y? Could we go backwards? Well, let's look at this problem here. We have 5x plus 5y. Can you see the similarities here in the distribution or the going backwards? Can we see that we have a common 5 in both of these terms? So what if we were to pull that out the front, much like this 2 is pulled out the front of this parenthesis set here? Well, if we were to pull that out, then we could say, all right, what would you have to multiply to 5 to get 5x? And that would be an x. And then what would you have to multiply to 5 to get the 5y? Well, that would be a positive y. So the reverse distribution for this would look like 5 times x plus y. All right, we're going to use that as we work on our beginning parts of factoring. Now, before we start actually doing that, let's do some practice with figuring out, if we're given a list of terms, we want to find what would be the greatest common factor. What is the largest thing that we could pull out of both or 3 or 4, however many terms we have? Okay, let's start small. Let's start looking at numbers. We have a 32 here and a 36. Now, what we're trying to do is basically find what is the biggest thing that will go into both of these. So if you remember back from basic mathematics techniques, then you can factor each one of these down. You can say, let's see, 32 would be the same thing as saying 2 times 16. And 16 we could break down a little further. That would be 2 times 8. And 8 we could break down into 2 times 4. And 4 would be 2 times 2. So if we were to write this out, this would be 2 to the 5th power. Now, what about the 36? 36 we could rewrite as 2 times 18. And 18 can be rewritten as 2 times 9. And 9 can be rewritten as 3 times 3. So the factorization of this would be 2 squared times 3 squared. Now, when we want to figure out what they both have in common, or the largest factor that they have in common, we have to look at their basic factors and look at what they have in common. Let the word tell you what to do. They don't have 3's in common, do they? Because the 36 has factors of 3, but the 32 does not. Now, over here we have 2 of these 2's. Over here we have 5 of the 2's. So together, their greatest common factor, or the largest thing that they both have in common, would be 2 of the 2's. So that tells us that our GCF here, or our greatest common factor, is 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 is the largest thing that will go into both of these numbers.